Hello, everybody, and happy Saturday to you guys. And welcome to another episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. You guys already know who it is. This is Tony Nitch. I'm the host of this podcast, and this podcast is all about normalizing the conversations around death, dying, and grief to help you feel more comfortable and be able to find resources and be able to relate to the people out there and get the necessary support that you need and deserve. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that what I'm saying? If this is your first time tuning in and you're on any other platform except for YouTube, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. And this is a very interactive show. So if you have any questions or comments for either myself or my guest, please put them in the comments section. And now without further ado, one more thing. Now, before I bring on my next guest, I would like to say that this is for educational purposes only. Now, when I bring on my next guest, you guys help me welcome Miss Rebecca Nolting to the show. Yeah, look, I was slaughtering a name. Okay.
We've heard worse. So
this is very true. So how we doing today, Rebecca?
Doing good. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Most definitely. Now, before we get started, tell people who you are, where you're from, and about the work that you do.
So originally, I am from California, Northern California, born and raised. And in 2003, gosh, can't even believe how long it's been, I moved to Denver and got my master's in social work and met my husband, who was living in a little town south of Denver called Pueblo, Colorado. We're about 2 hours south of Denver, and I've been here ever since. And what I do is, I have multiple things I do. I do have a full-time job working in a medical office, but I also am pursuing a career in writing and speaking about my faith journey. I have published 2 books so far and try to promote positive mental health and self-care and being able to give a voice to people who don't feel like they have a voice in when they feel like they're not okay. Make them feel that it's okay to talk about when you're not okay and to seek the help you need.
Most definitely. And thank you for the work that you do. Mental health is a huge thing nowadays, right? So many people are out there struggling.
Yes.
Struggling in silence too, because the taboo around mental health is there's something you're crazy. Right, you know
Yes.
what I'm saying? When you think about,
I am a little, but yeah.
a lot. I mean, but this is what deters people from getting the help that they need.
Right, and a lot of it is in the faith communities that is even more taboo. It feels like in a lot of ways where I was told multiple times, like basically the feeling of just pray about it, or, the feeling that you don't have enough faith about the subject to be able to break through. And sometimes you can't control those thoughts. And it's, to normalize that and to get people more talking more about it is what I feel like is my passion now.
Nice. And you've been doing that for quite some time as well, right?
I'm getting there. My first book came out just over 3 years ago. And that's actually where my mental health journey became worse. The struggles became worse was actually after I published. And working through those things through therapy and just making some very difficult decisions, I have been able to break through some of those things, but the struggle does continue. So
it does. Now, would you mind sharing a little bit of your journey with us? Like what was some of the mental health struggles that you endured? Which and how did you work through those?
Yeah, no, definitely. So my main things were anxiety and depression, and I was dealing with a lot of stressors, and I actually realized that I was burned out in the tasks at my church. And so dealing with that, you kind of have to look at it. Well, did the burnout cause the depression, or did the depression cause the burnout? And the answer is yes to both. I was having anxiety attacks, and just very angry and just working through that. Like I said, I had to make very difficult decisions, including stepping back from the roles that I did have at my church. And that was very, very difficult. And that just like shattered me. It's something you can't explain. My identity was definitely tied with that, which is very hard to break free of that. Before I actually made that decision, I had already started therapy, trying to work through some of those things. I remember telling my therapist multiple times, like, I'm going to do this. And she's like, you are, huh? I'm like, yeah, I have to do this. And I shocked her a lot of times of like, 'cause I would talk about, I think I'm going to step down. And then I'm like, I'm going to make the decision. I'm doing it. Even though like a lot of times they say to like not make a decision when you're so either high or low, but I had to make that decision no matter how I felt, because I needed to make a change. And it was very difficult. The way I worked through it, I found people who also were dealing with mental health struggles I've connected with people through Facebook when they've posted things. I've connected with friends who now are more open about it because I have been open about it. But the biggest thing was to work through a lot of my struggles in my therapy sessions. I did a very intense type of therapy, and that was very difficult. You have to face your fears and your insecurities, why I was led to the burnout. And that is something that I know you have to trust the process. It's not something that is fixed overnight.
Yeah.
And along with that, since I know this is a grief podcast, a lot of the burnout, I was going through a grieving process of letting go, the anger, the sadness of letting those things go. I worked through those things as well. And it's not that the journey is over at this point. I'm about 3 years out, and I still have my triggers. I still have my flashbacks, which that's part of grief as well. That it's not like you're through it and everything is fine and move on.
Right, exactly. Now, but I think the problem is that a lot of people don't even recognize when they're struggling in their mental health, right? And not until it's really too late. And in this, when I say this, I'm speaking from a place of my own experience, right? No one ever taught me about mental health struggles, right? It was such a taboo thing. Oh, you got to be crazy. There's something going on. And if you grew up the way I did, you just got popped in your head. Boy, ain't nothing wrong with you. Go on outside and play with your friends, right? So there was there was really no support. There's really no support, right? Especially if you're dealing with grief and trauma and addiction. Things people just looked at it like, oh, he's on crack, or what I'm saying. I used to hear that all the time. Oh, yeah, he's just an alcoholic or something like that. It wasn't until I got into this work till I realized that people were actually changing their reality to be able to function in it, right? You know what I'm saying? The best way that they knew how. So what can we do to help bring more awareness to the mental health struggles that people are going to? Like, how can we help people to understand, what I'm saying, and be, mindful of what to look for?
Right. I definitely, the conversation, making people feel like they're a safe person to reach out to when they're struggling. I had a lot of people in my experiences when I would say I was struggling that didn't know how to respond. I know one friend said, told my husband actually, I didn't want to say the wrong thing. But what I've been able to figure out, at least for myself, is the silence is worse. The complete just avoidance of it is worse than someone saying something, acknowledging that if you're trying to reach out to a person and I mean, I've learned who I can and can't reach out to, but I also feel like I've also pushed people to make them maybe a little more comfortable or know how to respond. And it doesn't have to necessarily be where they tell you anything. If you see someone in person, you can ask if you could pray over them, or you can just give them a hug. I mean, just give them a, like, just tell them that you care about them. It doesn't have to be where you say you have to have this script, ahead of time to be able to support the person. That to me has been a good way, something I have learned from my own experience. Like I said, I have one friend that I didn't know she was dealing with anxiety until I was sharing about my anxiety.
Yeah.
And so she knew I was a safe person then to talk about it. And it is hard to be, out on like the forefront of it, I didn't have the people reaching out to me because they didn't know, but I also hopefully have made it so the people in my circle have been able to understand a little bit better. And I mean, not everybody's going to face their own stuff, because I have found that people are uncomfortable because they haven't worked through their own mental health, or they don't want to face something they're struggling with themselves. So
Right.
it's easier to just push it out and minimize it, or just, downplay it, because not everybody wants to work through or admit that maybe they needed a therapist too.
That's very true. And now that we're doing the work of grief and trauma and mental health, we realize the importance of having therapy, right?
Mhm.
We realize the importance of actually being able to articulate, without a stigma being attached to, said mental health, right? And actually begin to address the problems that are going on. Now, you said that when you were going through yours, you were dealing with a lot of grief, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Um, you mind sharing a little bit of that? And like what, like, because when we associate with grief, a lot of people associate it with loss,
Mhm.
right? You know what I'm saying? But dude, we can grieve anything:
Right.
identity, jobs, cars, houses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So what were some of the things that you were grieving that contributed to the struggles of your mental
I
health?
You're right. When you said identity, I really tied a lot of who I was to the roles I was in.
Mhm.
And when I made the decision, I felt like God told me like it was time. That Then that was very hard. It was very peaceful, but then, we all resist making changes because change is hard, and
Mhm.
admitting that, no, I think I can handle it all. You get stubborn in that. But for me, the grief has been, I knew that things were never going to be the same. And I know that's in every area. When you change a job, when you um lose a person, it does change your world in a lot of
Mhm.
ways. And for me, the grief was, as I said, knowing that it was never going to be the same. I was never going to be in that role in the same way. And I just felt like God was telling me to move on from all of my tasks at church and move into the writing side. And that is scary because it's the unknown.
Right, right.
And um, there are times when I wanted people to understand what I was going through, and I didn't have the words for it, because it's something you can't describe unless you've been there through it.
Mhm.
Um, and I knew that the relationships that I was in at my church were going to change. It's just natural. I've seen it change. People aren't relying on me for things. They're not asking me to do things where I was the reliable one. And it's hard to know that the relationship, the closeness, the like contact with them was going to change. So it was grief on multiple areas, adjusting to how much time I spent at the church, how much there was a lot of things that went into it that I still have my moments where It's very hard. I was always so involved, decorating things for Christmas and Easter and all of those things. And those times are the worst times for me still, because I have those times where I'm like, oh, well, they're decorating. I'm not going to stay because I don't want, it's too hard for me still to even just help. So it's very hard. I actually did have to make the decision to step away completely from the church we were attending, because the triggers just kept happening. And I had to get that space from the actual environment. And that's hard as well, because then all of the friendships and everything was gone. And that really spiraled me even more in a lot of ways. And I didn't know if we were going to be returning to our church. I had to make that decision for myself. And that's very hard to make that decision, to feel like you're being selfish, but you are getting the help you need and the space you need to heal from the experience that you had.
You know what? I love that you said that. And I do love that, the fact that you called it selfish, right? Because it's not selfish to take care of yourself.
Mm-hmm. But
it's
it feels.
It feels that way, right? Because especially, Lincoln made a quote on a podcast that we were on not too long ago, and it still resonates with me. And the quote was, you're real quick to show up for your brothers, but when do you show up for yourself? Right? And I still think about that. So going into the new year, I said, you know what? I'm gonna be very intentional about everything that I do. I'm very observant. I watch people, right? And they help me make the decisions that I need to make. So, it's like I'm intentional. I'm going to protect me at all costs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not looking for anybody to protect me anymore. I'm not looking for anybody to validate me or any of that. I'm going to do it myself, right? But because I realize that not everybody has the best intentions for you. Mm-hmm. And that can contribute to how you show up in the world, right? Because you show up with everybody else's expectations.
Mm-hmm.
But when you have those expectations, what are your expectations? And you know what I'm saying? Do you allow other people's expectations overrule yours, contributing to the sorrow or the depression or the anxiety because you're not living up to what they expect you to be?
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. My pastor actually, throughout this entire process, in the last few years, kept telling me to manage my expectations of other people. That's one thing that has resonated with me, is just, it is very easy to, hope that people will show up for you, or they'll do this or they'll do that. But unfortunately, everybody will disappoint you at some point in your life. And it's just how you handle that, how you respond. And like you were saying, one of the things I had to learn in therapy was how to really validate myself and not second guess myself, and to trust myself in decisions I was making, not relying on other people, or, if I was going to disappoint them in the other way. I don't like to let people down. I'm definitely a people pleaser. That is one, I think, I wouldn't say that it's, sorry, I just kind of lost my train of thought.
You're totally fine. Like I totally slaughtered the quote. So Lincoln, Lincoln, I'm over your stuff already. All right, don't be calling me out like that. No, I love this man to death. He's like my brother. So that was the quote that he put on. The quote was, "Would you turn your back on your brothers?" And my answer was no. Then was asked, "Then why would you turn your back on yourself?" So, and I think that is fitting, considering the fact that we're discussing mental health, right? But I didn't mean to take your train of thought. I just wanted to put that out there and bring recognition.
That's okay. I'll admit that sometimes my train of thought is I know it's Like, I actually have had like an MRI done because I was concerned I was having memory loss. That is an issue that you can have with mental health, is like losing your train of thought, losing that. And I've had that, but I also still have my moments where I just completely can lose my train of thought and or totally miss a part of a conversation, or it still happens. And that's just, I don't know, it seems like it's more common now, but for myself, but
These things happen. I think, you know what, you're not by yourself.
yeah.
You're not by yourself. Look, and even like I said, I can relate fully. Yeah, you mean a totally different conversation. Next thing you know, you're never talking about what you started off with.
Right.
Like, weren't we just talking about muscle cars? How in the world did we start talking about the robin in the sky, right? We don't know. We just go with it, right? Like, at some point. So totally understood, right? Totally understandable about that. And so now, I want to ask, right? Because there are people out there that they get into the church. I walked away from my church because of the simple fact of, I realized that they treated me worse than anyone else. I asked for help, and just pretty much got criticized. I was looking for guidance. I was looking for mentorship, and it just wasn't there, right? And then on top of there was a lot of things that was being taught that I just didn't feel that it was the truth. And so, now look, I don't criticize anybody. I do not. And I'm not an atheist. I'm not an atheist. I believe in God. I just struggle with the religion. That's all, and then the people who represent it, are probably sometimes are not the best people. They're the same ones that go to church and praise, but they're the same ones that talk behind your back and gossip on you and treat you worse, right? And I'm a firm believer, if what you believe in makes you a good person, I'm all for it. But if what you believe in makes you treat people less than a human being, I say try something different, right? And trust me, it took me a long time to get to that point, but I realized that I was just better off, with just following the path and listening, right? And wanting to be a good person in the world, and fighting through the mental health, struggles that I did fight through, and I was one of the fortunate ones that was able to find a middle ground when I try to take my life. I found guidance. Unfortunately, there's so many other people out there that don't. And and I think that's a huge problem. That is a huge problem. One question that I have for you, because what I find a lot of times people get into this field not really under. I know they have the good intentions, but some of these people that get into this field don't really they really aren't qualified to be in this field. And don't get me wrong, but I just think they do a lot of damage to other individuals. I want to get your thoughts on that, and what can we do to change that?
Oh, I do want to talk about the whole church and the assumption. There is, like I've been saying, the disappointment in other people. And I did have a higher expectation of people who were fellow Christians, fellow believers, that they would be able to handle when I literally would say, I am struggling with anxiety and depression. Like I laid it out for them. And it was very frustrating to me to, not feel that support. It was very frustrating. And unfortunately, I have learned that I did have a friend that had lost her husband a few years ago. And I was having a conversation with her about how I told her, I said, I don't understand what it's like to lose a spouse. Like, I was just like, I cannot relate with you on that, but I can relate with you about when people ask you, are you okay? And you just say, I'm okay, because you don't want to talk about it. Or you put on the fake smile because you're just like, that's not a safe person to tell them what's really going on. So unfortunately, one thing she had said was, at that time that she had actually gone to grief share. And she was actually, I think, going through it for her second time, possibly. I know she's gone through it a couple times, but she'd maybe just finished her first time when we talked, and how it was more helpful to her to find people who had similarities, that had that same experience. Like, as I said, I couldn't understand, but I could understand the basis of grief, and I could understand, like I said, putting on that fake smile. But she said it was more helpful to her to find the support groups for her, and then be able to come back to the church and, share what she wants to. But she also, as I said, knows that she has that outside group that is more connected, and she would probably be more likely, I would assume, to reach out to them, because they'll understand. I won't understand
Right.
what that particular situation is like. And that's what I have found is, there are a few people in my church, and fellow believers that I've been able to connect with, that I do know that I could reach out to them, but the core is not necessarily in my actual church community. So the lesson to me is to find the people that are going to be that support for you, instead of making the assumption that it's going to be in a certain setting, because you just never know where you're going to find the support.
Right.
There's one friend that I found on Facebook. I just friended her just because I was friending people, and she had posted something about depression. And so I messaged her directly, and we have been able to connect over multiple things. We check in on each other, time to time, a little bit less often now, but try to check in and see how each other's doing. And it's not someone that I would have met in person. I don't know how I would have connected with her. So being able to use social media in the way that I think it was really intended to initially, of connecting with people and sharing, finding things in common with people, that to me has been priceless to be able to find that core group. I'm not sure what your original question was, but I remember the church
No,
part.
you're totally fine. Keep me going. And that leads me to another question, though. Because you said something that I found was very interesting, and I can relate to that. Now, I can't relate to losing a spouse, but I do have people. I have other men who can, so I can refer people to those men, to those individuals that are better at doing that than I am. Right? I'm a grief coach, but there's some things that I don't understand.
Mhm.
And so, I understand my lane. Now, with that, I want to, this poses the question of, you know, do you think people back off because of necessity? Because in the beginning, when you're really, really going through it, that's when people, because in grief, it's kind of opposite, right? People show up, and then after the funeral, people will leave, right? You know what I'm saying? Because they don't know what to do. Or they don't know how to say and this and another, and they always say, "Well, I don't want to trigger this, and I don't want to do this." It's always these different misconceptions and
Mhm.
things like that. Now, I found it a beautiful thing when you was like, in the beginning, y'all was checking up on each other. You was, making sure that you guys was okay. But then, there's that part where you say, well, not so much anymore. Right? You know what I'm saying? So my question is it because of necessity? Like you don't need that constant checking up on and things like that when you're going through it, or is it just, I mean, because I know when you heal, your what you require changes.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So is it because of necessity that that distance starts to come in?
I wondered that. I've thought about that, because I look at, like, who I connect with and how often, like, I reach out or tell them what's going on. And
Hmm.
I have noticed, like, I kind of go in waves. I mean, there's always going to be days that are just
Hmm.
not a good day. But I have noticed I have kind of backed off, and I kind of have been like, oh, maybe it's because I am doing better. Like, I still second guess that, of like, well, okay, well, my mind is calm, but what's also hard with mental health, for me at least, is when things are going good too. That doesn't necessarily mean that like you don't still have that anxiety or that worry that, okay, things are good right now, but let's see how bad I got before, like it could happen again. I definitely, you know, I've noticed like another friend, I was reaching out to her and I could tell she was struggling based on what she was posting on Facebook. I picked up on it and I was like, I know you're not okay. Like I can tell, like I just have this gut feeling. And so I was checking on her a lot more during that time. But then I kind of backed off because, her responses were getting shorter. So I'm like, okay, maybe, or maybe it could be also for me. I know there's times where I can't find the words for it. And so, yeah, I do want to like send a message to someone, but I don't even know where to start. Like, I don't even know what words to put to what I'm feeling right at that moment
Yeah.
or have been feeling for that day or whatever it is. And so for me, I have looked at it that is the time when I need to just trust in God and try to, if I can pray, if I can like read some scripture, that is ideal. I know it's not always ideal for myself. I did see someone post just the other day about how they just were able to break their depression and within a few minutes, and they were back to rebuking the devil, and they were able to clean and all this stuff. And I'm like, that's nice, but I,
You know,
I would love to say that I'm happy for her, but I also, the reality of it is sometimes you can't break it that quickly, and that
to be
doesn't.
honest with you, I don't believe that. I,
I
I
don't.
don't. I do
I
not believe that. Right? You know what I'm saying? Because I pay attention to people. Right? I'm very observant of people. I don't say anything, but I watch people all the time.
yeah.
And so when a person's going, "Oh yeah, I'm doing good," I wait.
Hmm.
I don't say anything, but I'm preparing myself for so when you need me the most. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna let you have that, right? Because if you're in a good place, I want to see that. But I also understand the mask that we wear.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? No, you're trying to be strong for somebody. You're trying to be strong for us. You don't want anybody to worry about you. And so sometimes it's okay, like you just said, we may not have the words
Hmm.
for someone, but if we can think about where we were at when we were struggling with our mental health and and things like that, what is the biggest factor that was always in there while we never talked? Because we felt like we was going to be a burden to people.
Hmm.
So I mean, and this is just for me. I just go to them and go, hey, just so you know, you're not a burden.
Yeah.
I don't say nothing else. I won't say anything else because for one, I don't want my words to be misunderstood because you're in such a vulnerable, sensitive state, right? You know what I'm saying? So something so simple as that, like, hey, just so you know, you're not a burden. And just kind of walk off and let it lead,
Hmm.
let it be where it wants to lead. It may lead to a deeper conversation. It may not, but it may at some point let that individual know that, hey, it's okay, right?
Right.
Most importantly, I see you.
Yeah. No, definitely. I think that's so important, and just um people knowing that you care about them. I
Mm,
know for me, like I could dismiss that as no, they really don't in my mind. Like I
mm,
wasn't believing it. It doesn't matter that you told me that, but the fact that I have certain people that just kept telling me like, just keep, keep going, keep doing, keep doing what you need to do. And you can do it, um, that was so important for me, even though I didn't necessarily believe it
mm,
myself, but they believed in me. And I know there's a misconception, at least for me, that I never stopped working. I didn't give up certain things right away. I was still active. I was still attending church. Like there were things that people didn't see what was behind our closed doors.
right.
And so, like you were saying, the mask, but it was also like well, don't you believe all the blessings that you have? And it's like, well, I know I have blessings. Like, I know like things could be so much worse in, multiple areas of my life, but I also, you have to accept them and know that you do deserve them, that you are um, loved. And there's a lot of things that I found that I didn't, like I said, I was believing the lies that like, no, nobody did care about me. No, like that can't be true because, you know,
Mhm.
here are all the reasons that I would come up with. Um, because I wasn't doing all my things that I thought I should be doing, or,
Right.
that I've disappointed people, or, um, that certain decisions I've made in my life, that, people were not, proud of me for that. And I had to learn that I can be proud of myself and I can see the progress that I've made. I know people at first were like, look how far you've come. And I just would kind of be like, yeah, but look how much further I have to go. And like last night, I was thinking about how far I've come in just my marketing side of my book journey, my writing journey. I mean,
Mhm.
working on making a website and having business cards and now getting on podcasts and just being able to speak about it. And, I've been able to, sell what I feel like is more than just like a couple books, there's more than a couple.
Right. Right.
That I am proud of myself for what I've been able to do, because not everybody pushes through to try to get yourself to a point where, you're starting to get momentum of, or you feel, at least I hope I am, that, but it's to believe in yourself and believe that, like I said, there were times where I just was like, even though yes, I made it through the toughest moments, but I didn't feel like I deserved to have what I have, and to
Mhm.
really trust that, okay, no, God has given them to me. He showed me mercy and grace when I didn't deserve it. There's a reason why he did that. And I had a friend, I told him, I said, I want to know why. And he's like, you'll probably never know why. Don't try to figure it out. Just, do what you can. And maybe I've looked at it that my second book really was about my mental health journey and how I addressed it in therapy and how I was able to, admit that I was dealing with it. That's another big thing, is admitting that you're struggling.
Mhm.
And how I've been able to, it was very healing for me to write. That is another great outlet. But now being able to speak about it as well and be able to hopefully help other people, that's what I feel like is where I'm supposed to be.
Mm. Now, here's a question. Here's a question for the time, for the ages, right? So if we can compare the mental health challenges that we have or being made aware of today compared to when you were younger, do you think they're the same or is there more?
I definitely have seen a more conversation about it. When I was growing up, I don't really remember like talking about like, oh, make sure you take care of yourself. I mean, yeah, you did, but it was like not
Right.
really like, a piece of it. I don't really remember talking about mental health um growing up. In a
Mhm.
more like public way where people were talking about it. And I know um part of it is, there's different generations where certain people were just taught like you just don't talk about it. Like you're saying, I know definitely there is still stigma, especially with men, to share your feelings.
Right.
But I feel like it's getting better. But I definitely don't think we're where we could be.
Okay. Well, and the reason why I asked, right, because before COVID hit, I think I just seen things from a different perspective, right? And I started putting two and two together. So I've always been curious about that, what other people would have thought about that, because I started thinking to myself, like, nothing's really changed. We just became more aware of them, right? Because when you see those movies, or those TV shows like Knight Rider, or what I'm saying, things like that from back in the day, you always, or Charmed, or something like that, right? You know what I'm saying? You would always find those people that was on medication, right? You know what I'm saying? So I started thinking, I was like, I wonder, maybe they was just better at hiding it, right? You know what I'm saying? And then, especially if you got one of those good little dramas and stuff, you have you taken your medication today?
Right.
You're acting kind of psycho there, right? And it's like, now you think about it now, we look at it, you know, is it it's really hard for me to say that um that it was that is bigger now than it was back then. I just think that nowadays people are becoming more open about
Yeah.
it, right?
Well, and what I found is so funny. Every year around Christmas time, they play It's a Wonderful Life like so many times. And if you read the description of It's a Wonderful Life, it says a suicidal man. Like that was I think it was 1939 is when the movie came out. Like we were going to talk about it but not really address like why he was standing on the bridge. Like
Mm,
we're gonna say he had it, but then everything's fine in the end. So he just had his moment. But if you really watch the story, he's struggling to try to figure out like where why things kept happening, in a bad way to him, and or were they bad to him? We
mhm.
all have perspective on that, but I just found that so interesting that is a lot of people's favorite movie. And when you think about like when you read the description, it has that, but I don't think like that really helped give people room to actually talk about the topic. It's just more of like, oh yeah, it's great that he, chose to live. Like,
Right.
and he realized, what effect you have on people, which is great. But it also didn't really start a conversation where I'm seeing more and more shows like you're saying and movies where they actually are portraying someone with mental health in a more accurate way and in a more
Mhm.
like real way, then I'm not sure like before, like I said, it just kind of got skated over.
I
So
definitely understand that. Definitely understand that. I want to say hi to Rachel. She just tuned in today. Thank you for tuning in. So remember when you was asking me about my backdrop? Rachel was the one who created that for me.
okay.
So amazing work that she's done.
Very
She's
nice.
actually done done some good work for me as well. So you guys out there looking for a designer or something, guys, reach out to her. She does amazing work. And you guys can find her on Facebook and things like that. She's always ready to work, man. Always ready to put something together for you guys. Um, and so you know, again, I'm thinking about a lot of stuff that I've had to go through and how I've had to cope in a lot of different ways. But also learning when something wasn't working.
Mhm.
What I'm saying? Becoming very emotionally aware of, okay, this tool that I had, what I'm saying, is no longer effective, right? And I think when I talk about being emotionally aware, what I'm saying, there's a difference between being emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent. I'm aware of my emotions,
Right.
and what's working and what's not working, but I have a tool belt. You know what I'm saying? I have a tool belt that I can go up in there and go, oh, I think I'm gonna try this time, right? And the importance of being aware of those things. You know what I'm saying? And not letting it control you, but learning how to make it useful in your journey.
Yeah.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
something.
No, I definitely, one of the things that my therapist, who was amazing, first of all, I'll just say that I did actually try a different therapist.
Mhm.
She was actually my second one I tried. The first one, I was not pleased with at all. He didn't really help me process anything. My third session with him, he told me I was going to be healed of my anxiety by my next session, which was in a week. So it wasn't working. And so when you said about things not working, I had to, even though I was like, I don't want to try this again, I made the decision to, okay, I need to find someone else. And the second person I got was the person I needed to help me actually process through. And one of the things that she taught me was that to not run from your emotions, but it's so easy to run from your grief, your sadness, your anger. And what she's taught me is to, if you don't do that, you need to learn how to sit with it and feel it, and then you can let them go, or else you're just going to keep holding on to those emotions. And that has been amazing for me. It's totally like, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I feel like I went from like not really feeling a lot of emotions, like negative emotions, to I'm like feel completely overly emotional a lot. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm crying again. And I'm, like feeling these emotions all over again, but I'm trying to not run from them. And hopefully they'll process through. And I find that then I am able to just go, okay, I processed through that. I was triggered. I was, this is what's going on. I just, let myself feel that. So now hopefully, in a few years, I don't have to go back to therapy and have to reprocess all the stuff I already did.
Right.
But one thing that came to my mind while you were talking too was to the movies of Inside Out, the first and the second one, really, I think, captured all the emotions in just a very accurate way. I mean, I just love the anxiety one. I mean, I was like, that is so, I got it.
Yeah.
Like they were able to capture it in yes, it's a child's movie, but it's also hopefully, the next generations, even, I mean, as an adult, I loved them. That it was a way to be able to explain it in a more not simple way, but kind of simple way that are, to be able to know that you have all these emotions and they're all okay. It's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel, the joy, because you don't necessarily feel as much joy if you haven't felt the sadness. And those movies were just, I think they're great assets to be able to help people like start conversations and be able to like accept and know that all emotions are okay to feel. And once again, to validate your own feelings, if you're feeling like nobody else like understands, that you can learn how to validate your own feelings in those moments.
I got a question for the audience as well. Oh, hold on. We got a comment over here. But also, I'm going to present this question to the audience. To everybody tuning in, what are some of the struggles that you had to overcome with your mental health, and how did you learn to maneuver through it? Share some of your experiences up here. You know what I'm saying? And if you have any comments or questions, please put them in the comment section. Rachel says, "Do you think it is a good strategy for processing emotions to like manipulate your own self? Because sometimes when we go with the flow, we develop addictions that become a downward spiral." Great.
No, there's definitely there's extremes in everything. I mean, you can, if you take something to the extreme, of course, I'm not saying I don't still spiral when I'm feeling the sadness or frustration. I do. I mean, that's part of being human, is I'm still learning. I spent like about 40 years of my life, in one mode, and so learning how to handle emotions in a more healthy way, I'm still learning. I'll probably still learn until I'm 80. So or older. So one thing that was part of my therapy was, it's called brain synchronization therapy. It's a form of EMDR. Some people have heard of it. So basically, what my therapist had me do is write out the most distressing things that were in my that I felt like I had in my life on a piece of paper and rate how distressing they were. And what she would have me do, and it's very much like I would not advise to do it on your own, is she had me actually process through the emotions of it again and be able to basically almost reprogram my brain in a lot of ways to be able to store them in a more healthy way where now when I think back on them, it's not as distressing. And it was not a fun process. I will say it's not. I got worse before I got better. I mean, she was having me process feelings of feeling unimportant, feeling unwanted, feeling alone. I mean, those were very intense emotions. And, you have other things that I had other events that came up that I didn't even remember until we were processing it. So it was very, very intense. And I said I would not advise to do that on your own. But it also helped me to learn how to handle the emotions in a better way. Like I said, I'm still working on how to deal with, things that come up, but I'm also know that there's so many things that in my past that I've worked through that I can calmly talk about before I would just not even be able to, like I said, find the words or be able to fully feel what was behind it. Because that's a lot of things is you have to figure out why are you having these emotions? Where are they coming from? What do you, like I had said, your fears and your insecurities, that's where they're coming from. I mean, I was very afraid of being alone. That was very much one of my core words. And it was so scary to like think about being alone. Feeling like you're going through things by yourself. And one of the scariest things that I did face with that was I was feeling suicidal and I checked myself into the hospital. And that is absolutely, I can say, the most terrifying thing I've ever done, because then I was stripped of all of the things that I was used to. I lost my phone. I lost like all of like the contacts I could have. I mean, I could call my husband at certain points, but you're stripped of your clothes. You're stripped of like all of your comforts. You're in a completely different environment. I was in a unit for 5 days, and that was I was alone. I mean, I was facing my deepest fear of this is what was afraid of happening. And what I was able to learn out of that was, even though like I personally didn't believe my husband was going to be like supportive, it's not that I didn't believe it, but I needed to see it and I saw it. And I was able to show myself, like we were saying earlier about showing yourself that love, that I cared enough about myself to seek the help. And yes, I said, I'm not saying that everything's been great since then, like there's been still spirals. There still are temptations to go back to my old coping skills, but I also just take it one day at a time. Sometimes I say 1 hour at a time. Sometimes I break it down even a minute at a time and just, keep pushing myself through doing what I know are good for me. And if it's just literally laying in bed and just letting myself just breathe through it. So
yeah. I want to elaborate on that question as well, because a lot of times what happens is that we don't necessarily know when we're spiraling out of control. And what I mean by that, because and again, I'm speaking from my own self. I can't speak for anyone else. When I spiraled out of control, I thought I was doing good, right? You know what I'm saying? I mean, my addiction was lifting weights. Loved it. And you would think, how can that be? How can it be a bad thing? You're lifting weights, you're taking care of yourself. It depends on how you use it. Right? I was always known for lifting heavy stuff. And I knew that if I got to a certain point that, so I may not be strong enough to get this 600 pounds off of my chest. So what's the possibilities of it crushing me? Yeah. And so I would do things like that. Um, Things like making choices that you would think that would benefit you, but in all actuality, they're not benefiting you. So these are the things that, when you begin to spiral out of control, how do you know that you're spiraling out of control? How do you know that you're repeating those same habits over and over and over again? So here's something that I began to do. And this is just something that I use and, which benefits me. Most people will go, how in the world did you do this? But I learned how to see me through other people's eyes, right? You know what I'm saying? I would imagine me standing next to them, watching me in real time, like watching my actions, watching what I'm doing. Like, what are you seeing that I'm not seeing? And so I learned to fully focus on that energy to go, oh, this is what they're seeing. As I'm talking, they're looking at me and I'm going, oh, okay. So that's how I became aware when I wasn't making the best decisions, when I was spiraling out of control, you know what I'm saying? And I was able to catch that one little thing, like where it would begin to pick itself apart. And I would go, oh, I need to go back to Tony right now. And they go, hey, psst, let's get this together. Okay. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what they're seeing. You got to see yourself through other people's eyes in the world, right? And it's not easy.
No.
And I think it's not easy whatsoever, right?
Right. It's also good to have people that you trust that will like tell you that, like, hey, well, let me tell you the truth and not just like what you want to hear. And having that support system to call you out on, hey, your behavior, maybe you need to not do that. Or, that's huge. I definitely agree that anything can be, even if it sounds positive, can be, I know I personally have what I'm sure is like an addictive personality where I'm like, I need to be doing this, like I said, I never stopped working. And I know that a lot of that was good for me structure wise, like having that consistency and feeling like I was contributing. But I also know that I, took on more than I probably should have with that.
I'm gonna put this comment up here. Rachel, I'm over your stuff already. Okay, I'm over your stuff already.
That's true. I'm over your stuff. Okay, I'm gonna have to use that too. I'll let the people know that I feel like, yeah, you're probably
no, like I find that funny, right? Because that's a term that I use with people. Every time I'm like, I'm over your stuff already. I'm over it. Right? They just kind of look at me. I don't know why I do it, but I do it all the time. Like I'll see something, and I call it for what it is. I'm like, you know what? I'm over your stuff. I'm over your stuff already. Yeah, I am. Yeah, I did like I did this, right? But I want to go back. She's probably laughing the butt off. Probably
no, I love
like, he's told me this before too. But I get people telling me that too, right? When people catch on, sometimes they cut me off. They're like, "You probably over my stuff already, aren't you?" I'm like, I am. I really am right now.
But that's where like the honesty and just being genuine and like being able to have those people you can feel that safety with, that you can be just completely real with them. And it's so important to have that in your life.
You want people to hold you accountable for your choices, right? You know what I'm saying? And so when I began to say that, you got to remember, before I started saying it to other people, it was something that I used to tell myself because I was over myself. I was over my stuff already. I was over my stuff, right? You know what I'm saying? Like if I wasn't making the best decisions that was, you know what I'm saying, that could benefit me in moving forward and grow, but also expand my knowledge and wisdom and how to be a functional human being in the world, right? To add to the experience, you know what I'm saying? That I'm supposed to have. I would have to correct myself, and I would have to look at myself in the mirror or stand outside of myself and go, I'm over your shit already, Tony. I am over your shit. And so I would have to question, like, what are you over? What are you seeing? Right. And I would see it's like a mirror image.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you talk to yourself, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at myself, look at me. And I'm going, no, man, get it together. I'm over your shit. You know what I'm saying? You can't keep going around doing this. What I realized what was going on, I'm so observant, like I see the things that most people think I don't see. And I have trust issues.
Mhm.
And I won't say anything. I won't say nothing at all. I just let you keep doing what you do. But just so you know, I see what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, and with that being said, like I get too many people that treat me like options and don't understand that I will move out. I will make a choice and consciously move out of your way and not say a word. When you figure out what I've done, it's already too late. I've already moved out of your way. I've already been on my path. Because for one, I'm not going to add to the trust issues that I already have just because you think that you can manipulate me. I'm not
Right.
going to. It's just not going to happen. I tell people this all the time. In a world of people where people play checkers, I play chess. I'm very strategic. And if you don't understand how to make those moves, you know what I'm saying, you'll always be jeopardizing your mental health for other people. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and I don't want to. I hate being that way, but people never really give me an option.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, and that level of self-awareness, I think that's something that I don't know how many people are willing to go like to more of an extreme of self-awareness where they're just, are even going to admit those things to themselves. And then like you're saying, it's time to just go, you know what? That's on you.
Yeah.
And
Well,
you heal your stuff. I'm working on
right,
myself.
right, right. Well, it's not even saying that that's on you. It's just me removing myself from a situation, right?
Hmm.
You know, because if I don't look out for me, no one else is going to look out for me. You
Right.
know, and because everybody has their own lives, and I don't expect anybody to look out for me, but just believe I do pay attention to everything. You know what I'm saying? Because I have to. I have to know. I Since people aren't upfront about what their intentions are, I have to sit around and wait till they start to reveal themselves. And what people don't understand, I've in anything that I do, I've already mapped out 150 different scenarios. It depends on how you step into that
Hmm.
path. And once you do that, it becomes predictable. People are so predictable. This is why I protect my mental health. People are predictable. I can pretty much tell a person what their next step is, because I've already looked at it and be like, it's not going to work out too well for me. I might want to step over here, right? And I let them go and finish what they're going to do. And I hate, and the crazy part about it is this is just the way that I am, right? And I really wish it wasn't that way. But in my world, trust is earned. In anybody's world, trust should be earned, right? Especially when it deals with your mental health, especially when it deals with your emotional health, your spiritual health, right? You know what I'm saying? As well as your physical health. You need that people should earn that trust with you if they want to walk with you,
Hmm.
and vice versa, right? And so that's what that term that I use. I'm over your stuff already, right? You know what I'm saying? Because that's what I've had to do,
Right.
you know. So that the long story short, that's where it comes from. It was something that I developed to keep me in line, to hold myself accountable, and it just became this fun thing to say to people. It really did. It just became this fun thing to say to people because I joke with a lot of people, but there's times where I'm just like, yeah, I'm over your shit already. Yeah, and I'm not going about my way. Um,
But
but
that's what a lot of things I've had to learn is boundaries as well.
right,
Um,
right,
is learning like I said, like it's on you. Like I can't take on your your unhealed side. I can't take on other people's unhealed parts. That I need to protect myself. Number one, and then if we can figure out a way to have a relationship, great. Like there's, certain people that I've learned that I've had to set new boundaries with because
Mhm.
like I realized I didn't have very strong boundaries that led me to, like probably I went the opposite way of like probably trusting people too much in certain ways that I wasn't speaking up for myself.
Mhm. And that's part of it. That is definitely a huge part of it, right? Um, because if we're not aware of them, of people overstepping boundaries, we tend to let people run rampant,
Hmm.
and people are what I find that people are creatures of habit. When things become too comfortable with them, people reveal who they are.
Hmm.
And I never did understand that. Like, be who you authentically say you are from the get go. That way, I don't have to second guess your actions or your words. You know what I'm saying? Because if I have to do that, I'm just best believe I'm already watching you. I'm already observing the things that you do. So that it's the things that you don't say that I'm going. I wonder if they caught on to that, or maybe they thought I did. Right?
Hmm.
So and again, setting boundaries, trusting yourself. That's the biggest thing. Like it's easy to not trust people. The
Hmm.
hardest thing is not to trust yourself to do the things that what I'm saying, to do the things that you're supposed to do, right? You know what I'm saying? Because they're unfamiliar, they're not safe, they're uncomfortable,
And
right?
that's why I said the selfishness, like that
Right,
it
right.
felt very selfish to be looking out for myself. That I didn't understand that because I didn't have that boundary where I
Mm.
was had that set.
Right, right. No, understood. But I think it's necessary.
Hmm.
It's truly necessary. Like if I'm taking time to myself and I'm being selfish with me, let me be.
Hmm.
Yeah, just let me be, right? Because I'm taking care of me at the moment. I'm taking care of me so I can be a better person and I can
Right.
show up for you better, right? You know what I'm saying? But let me have that, and so it gives me time, like you said, this healing journey that we're on. You know what I'm saying? Especially when it comes down to grief and addiction and the mental health and what I'm saying, the suicidal ideation, all of these things that play a part that can easily, what I'm saying, if you're not careful, well, just tear your whole world apart, right? In in a matter of seconds. Or if you like me, I watch mine just fall apart. Like, huh, yep, this isn't good. Because a lot of times that's what I do. And it's like, yeah, this isn't good. I guess, yeah, I'm not even going to be able to explain this one, but here we are.
Yep.
But, again, that's that old phrase, man. Trust is earned.
Hmm.
Um, and everybody should have that. You know what I'm saying? So Rachel, before you let yourself spiral out of control, just remember, trust yourself to do what's necessary. You know what I'm saying? Trust that you and become aware of your addictions. Become aware of where you are mentally. You know, and choose something different. You know what I'm saying? Because like, be over yourself.
And it's okay to ask for help
Yeah,
in
ask for help
whatever
too, right? You know what I'm saying?
whatever aspect that is. I mean, I went from therapy to then, needing the few days that I needed to just completely reset.
Mhm.
Um, Even though that was terrifying, it was what I needed to stop the thoughts. So I mean, it felt very extreme, and it was because I needed that extreme shakeup in my life. So.
See, you over, you over yourself already. But it's not a bad place to be,
Sometimes,
right?
sometimes I feel that too. Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm over myself already. Yeah, exactly, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, think about it for a minute, right? You know what I'm saying? You will may find yourself over yourself already. You be like,
Right.
"Ooh," right?
Right. I mean,
Um,
I had a situation just a couple weeks ago, and I knew that I was reacting in a more extreme way than I needed to, and I was
mm,
trying to stop it, and I just like felt myself getting sucked into it. But I also did recognize that I was like, okay, I know I'm overreacting to this, but there's something underlying. Why am I reacting? Like,
Mm,
there
yeah.
has to be some kind of truth to why, like, I am reacting the way I am. Like, there has to be something that's triggering me, that it's not just like, oh, something happened. I'm like, in a year, I'm not going to be worried about this. I know I'm not. Like, I even was telling myself when I was overreacting, but it was also, I didn't let myself just like, okay, I can't let myself feel those emotions like I was saying earlier, just because like I know it's irrational. Like, I needed to process through my frustration, because it actually, I finally was able to get across to certain people that like things weren't working. I needed a change in what I was dealing with. So even though I know I feel like I reacted in a like extreme way, it also like did resolve a situation in certain ways. So
Well,
unfortunately, it seems like you have to be dramatic about it, but also like sometimes
well,
it unfortunately.
my question would be, because I don't think that there's an extreme way to act when it comes down to what you're feeling. You act accordingly,
Mhm.
right? And saying that maybe overdid it. No, I don't believe it. I believe that people do exactly what they need to do to protect themselves. And like, let's not, let's not, you know, um, take away from your experience.
Yeah. And that's where I'm still learning to like,
Right, right,
I
right,
still don't always validate my own feelings in that of like, why was I, as I said, like, why was I reacting? And what I felt like was, I mean,
right.
people could tell I was really, really frustrated, and I just don't, um, I'm still learning, as I said, to validate my own experiences. Like you're saying, like my feelings were valid, like
Right.
of why what it had just built up. Like my frustration had just built up, and I just like feel like I kind of unloaded in some ways of like,
But you did what you were supposed. You did what you needed
yeah,
to do, right? You know what I'm saying? And that's why I tell people, like, stop worried about, what I'm saying, what other people think, right? You know what I'm saying? Because you did what you needed to do when you needed to do it.
hmm,
And then once you develop the tools, and you know what I'm saying, that you need it, now you can become more aware of that, and you can
yeah,
regulate it a little bit more, right? So the
right,
next time that situation comes up, you're not having the same emotional reaction.
yeah,
Right now, you can develop a responsive way of dealing with it, right? You know what I'm saying? A more logical way, and that's the one thing when I'm sitting down with men and things like that, like, the misconception of that men don't feel is totally garbage. It's not that we don't feel; we feel very, very deeply, right? You know what I'm saying? We just don't know how to articulate it or express it. So what you see may not be what's going on. Perception versus reality. Uh,
hmm,
and so you did perception versus reality in your case, right? Some people may be like, hey, it was to the extreme. To you, no, you did exactly what you needed to do. Screw what they're talking about.
right.
I
Because
ain't
I
got
feel
nothing
like
to do with that.
in that particular situation, I feel like I had voiced my opinion multiple times, and like when you don't feel heard, that's like one of my biggest things is like
Yeah,
when you feel like people aren't like acknowledging that like we need to make a change, then yeah, my frustration just kind of
yeah. And these things do happen, right? Because it's part of it. You know what? It doesn't make you less of a person. It makes you a full human being. You
hmm,
come equipped with these things. You come equipped with them. What are you supposed to do? Not acknowledge them or
right,
pretend that they don't exist? Well, they have a
right,
bad tendency of coming back and poking you on the forehead and saying, "Hey, you, I'm over here. I don't know if you noticed that, but you put baby in a corner, and baby ain't sitting in the corner no more." You know what I'm
right.
saying? Come on, we know what that baby is not sitting in the corner no more, right? You know what I'm saying? And so
And
when baby
I
comes
think
out the
for me,
corner,
like in my true honesty, like I didn't used to speak up for myself as
hey,
much as
that's
I
what I
have
mean.
been. And so it's totally uncomfortable. And I'm like, wow, I'm really being dramatic. But sometimes, like you're saying, I mean, it it's how it felt.
Yeah,
Like,
it's what you needed to do.
yeah.
Right. It's
Well, I
what you need
appreciate the
to do.
therapy session here today.
Well, I mean, look, sometimes people need that, right? You know what I'm saying? I'm pretty sure there's people out there right now. I'm watching people pop in on Instagram and, what I'm saying, on YouTube and on the LinkedIn and things like that. And, there's somebody out there right now taking notes going, wow, I can relate to that in so many
Mhm.
different ways. So, sometimes this is what needs to happen.
Yeah.
And this is how we share what we've gone through to help those individuals go through it, because Lord knows I don't have all the answers. But I think together we can help bring solutions, better solutions, and put them on the table and go, look, you got more options now. You got some things that you can pick from. You got a whole little smorgasbord, a little buffet. You know what I'm saying? Choose what you need, and the rest of it just put in your pockets, and what I'm saying, use them when you need them.
Right.
And,
It's
and
just
with
a
that,
lot of like people connecting of like, hey, I've been
right,
there
right,
too.
right.
Like that is to me the number one takeaway that I feel like I try to push is that to find your core people, and you'll find people that you've never met before. Like I mentioned, the friend on Facebook that,
Hmm.
I mean, we connected over something, over mental health, and we found so many other similarities that like we have a
Right.
friendship. I mean, it's kind of funny. I actually had only seen her maybe 3 times in person, and she invited me to her baby shower. Like I went to someone who I really barely knew in person to go to an event for her. Like it was so fun. It was just like, okay, I've seen her maybe 3 other times in my life in
Hmm.
person, and I'm able to be a part of her life in that way.
Yeah.
So
See, and that's not a bad thing, right?
no.
The right people come into your life. Sometimes the problem is, Rebecca, we go through so many bad people
Hmm. It's
that
true.
it's kind of hard to see the right people. And sometimes we're scared to give people the opportunity, right? But they come
Mhm.
at a time when we need them the most, and those are the ones that are still behind. And it's never like what anybody thinks it's going to be. They never look like the people that what I'm saying. They don't look like the people that you're used to,
Right.
right? You know what I'm saying. They don't look like that. But that, I think that's a part of faith too, right? You know what I'm
Oh
saying.
yeah.
Not to judge people, but to give people an option. Like I tell people all the time, I trust you till you give me a reason not to,
Yeah.
right? You know what I'm saying? And then again, when I find that reason not to, I just move out of your way. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna I'm not gonna cause problems with you. I'm gonna go and let you do what you need to do, right? You know what I'm saying? Because apparently I'm in your way, so let me just step off to the side. I have no problem. Go on now, and I have no problems with doing that and sitting back and just going, okay, you're going that way, I'm gonna go this way. I have no problems with doing that. Um, but now, with that being said, show people your book.
All right. I have two.
Well, but bring them up this way. Talk about it. Where's the other one? You can't be taking one and not pick up the other one. Where's the other one?
So there's the first one.
Okay. Piece of faith. Piece of faith.
And then you can see
Building faith.
building faith. There's a nice partially built,
Cool.
house on that one.
Yeah. Now,
Um, yeah.
where can people find them?
So I do have them on Amazon. Or you can just Google my name. It's kind of fun actually. Now I have fun Googling my name because I comes up with all my book events, and I'm like, oh, this is a positive thing to find your name on here.
Right.
So on Amazon, it's easier to search by my name because there's a lot of books called Building Faith with those words in there.
Mhm.
But so they're on Amazon. Like I said, they're on Google, so you can find it at Barnes and Noble or Walmart, Target. You can order a lot of them online. I have them in paperback and ebook. So there's different ways that you can access them. What I love about my books, I was given the advice when I was writing to write reflection questions at the end of each chapter, so you can either journal on them or make them part of a study with other people to talk about the questions, or however you want to approach it. So I really like that. I also have my website that I have the links on there as well. And that website is extraordinaryfromordinary.com. I do joke that it is long, but the way I describe it is why I came up with it is that you find the extraordinary things in ordinary items. So that's how my blog started. And so that's kind of why I named it the way I did. So
That's amazing. That's truly amazing. And now, how can people find you?
So I do have, like I said, my website that you can connect. This guy named Tony really pushed for me to do a author page on Facebook.
You know what, Rebecca? I'm over your stuff already. Don't be calling me out like that. Don't be calling me out.
I mean, he's only like the 10th person that's told me to do it. So, on that 10th person. No. So I just have it under my name, and then I have author obviously behind on Facebook I've gotten a lot of people to say they'll follow me. So, I mean, I guess I guess I'm building it. So it's something that I'm getting there. Like I said, it's one of those things that I'm definitely seeing how much I have been able to accomplish in the last few years with it. That I have no idea what my website is it the most professional? No, but hey, someone told me yesterday it looked pretty good. So I'm like, hey, that's great.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
I'll take that. I have information and I can always improve on it. That's, the story of life is we can always improve on where we're at. And hopefully, I can give some sort of encouragement to people to just keep trying, keep trusting the process. And to, yes, people will disappoint, but God is always with you.
There you go. And congratulations on getting your Facebook group up. And then
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's a big yes. Okay. And keep rocking it. And guys, you guys will be seeing more of Rebecca. Her information is in the description on the YouTube channel. So go there, check her out. Go to her website, order her books, tell her Tony sent you. But also, you guys, she will be one of the presenters in the Global Grief Conference 2025. So you guys, we got a few things going on, and we're going to keep you guys updated as we begin to get the scheduling and everything. Like we got a lot of great things coming. So guys, keep your eyes out on that. And for everyone who has been tuning in, if this is your first time tuning in, and if you have not already, do me a favor, head on over to that YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell notification so you'll be notified every time that we drop a new episode. Now, Rebecca, before I let you go, is a question that I've been really I've been asked this question before, and it was like I'm switching it up a little bit. If you had a superpower, what would it be?
A superpower?
Mm-hmm.
Is this your normal question or not your normal question?
Not my normal question.
Oh, you're mixing it up. Now
I want to right. I know, because you've been doing research. So I switch it up now, you know what I'm saying? You like, well, this is not normal. No, it's not normal, right? So I was asked this question about a week ago. I was in a meeting, and they were going around, if you had a superpower, what would it be? And I was like, oh, that's deep, right? Because it's formulated to get you to think outside the box. Mm-hmm. Not like the Hulk or Superman and things. I mean, those are good superpowers. Don't get me wrong. You know what I'm saying? Being invisible, having super speed and things like that. But think about it, right? Just really think about it. Think outside the box. If you had a superpower, what would it be? And yes, it is a trick question, Rachel. Don't be calling me out. Actually, it's not a trick question. It's a question. It's a really deep question if you actually think about it, right?
I guess it goes with my message of like not hoping that people don't feel alone, is to be able to show people that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I like that. All right. I'm going to start posing this question to the audience too. Like, if you had a superpower, what would it be? You know what I'm saying? Because I think when you think about it and you think about it in its entirety, what does that mean?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You know what I'm saying? Think outside the box. Think about being a human, but also think about being a good human being in this world. And relate your answer to that. I think that's powerful. With that being said, You calling me out till you want to hear my answer? Okay, so okay, well, if well, I want to hear your superpower. All right, so mine was when I thought about it, it was empathy. If I had a superpower, it would be empathy. Why? Because empathy helps you understand another person's struggle and journey. It gives you the strength to be able to walk with them in their most darkest moments without judgment, but with compassion. Empathy holds all of that inside of there. So that would be my superpower to the world. Because in the end, it serves its purpose in leaving you better than what I found you.
Hmm.
And possibly giving you the strength to do it for someone else.
I think our superpowers kind of go together.
Yeah, I mean, but you can go ahead and steal it. You can go ahead and steal it, okay? But yeah, but that's what I mean. When you were saying, I was going to say, can you put a word to it? Because they do go hand in hand, right? But
yeah.
that's a good person in life.
Mm-hmm.
That's I think
right, because sympathy, you can just feel like,
right,
yeah, I feel sorry that you're feeling that, but
right,
the empathy is another layer of being able to more understand
right.
and
In
relate,
depth,
and be able to,
right?
like, we've kind of talked about this whole time of like how to show the support to someone that's
Mm-hmm,
going through the process.
mm-hmm.
That's yeah.
I mean, I think that's what I think that's what it's all about. It adds to the experience that you have in this world when you show up and not make things about you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what empathy is, in so many different ways. Now you can always add to it as well as you see fit. You know what I'm saying? As long as it still plays along the lines of being empathetic to another person, right? One thing I've always learned, you know what I'm saying, like especially in my life, my journey is not about me. It's about the people that come along. How do we leave them?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna go ahead and leave that right there. I'm gonna leave that right there. Rebecca, Rebecca, thank you for joining me today. For the guys in here that's going to be coming into the men's group, I'll see you guys in about 30 more minutes and everything. And for everyone else, we're going to keep you guys updated as we begin to move forward towards the conference. We got everything coming. Be sure to sign up and make sure you don't miss this 3-day virtual beautiful event that's coming on. It's going to be big. It's going to be beautiful. We got a lot of amazing people. We got a lot of presenters, and we've added in a few other things as well. So, you guys, with that being said, we're going to close out this episode of the Grief Let's Talk About It podcast. We will see you guys tomorrow. I do believe I got 2 of them coming up tomorrow. So, guys, tune in for that as well. And Becca, again, thank you. You guys, go check her out and go get her on Facebook. Go get her on Facebook. Yeah. Tell her Tony sent you. Tell her like I set her up, right? Let her know I set her up, right?
It's all his fault.
Yeah, see, I did this. This is what I did. This is what I did. I will be accountable for that one. Yeah.
That was a good thing. Yes.
It's a beautiful day. It's a beautiful day.
Right.
So, guys, you guys enjoy the rest of your day. I love you. Thank you for your support. And yeah, want to see you guys in the next one. Peace.